Automation for vulnerability scanning has been a nice to have for FedRAMP teams for a long time. But with the new FedRAMP vulnerability standard recently announced, using automated tools to help process your vulnerability scan data has changed from a nice to have to a need to have, honestly, a survival requirement for teams that are doing FedRAMP. In this video, we are collaborating with Ajay from Stratus Cyber to help break down the new FedRAMP vulnerability standard to help you understand what the requirements mean for you. So, the first thing to understand is that this new vulnerability standard will replace all existing FedRAMP requirements related to vulnerability scanning and POA&Ms. That means POA&Ms as you know it are going away. This is an exciting development because POA&Ms have been a pain point for a long time. And there's been a lot of teams that have done manual spreadsheets to track their vulnerabilities and issues and to report on the POAMs. But as you'll see, teams are going to be forced to move towards automated tools in order to meet new timelines and provide the context needed for each vulnerability that's found. So there's two key terms to understand here: LEV and IRV. LEV stands for likely exploited vulnerability, the opposite being not likely exploited vulnerability. And this is, how likely is it that a vulnerability can be exploited by a threat actor, and that threat actor could gain unauthorized access, cause harm, or have an otherwise adverse effect within the cloud service offering by exploiting the vulnerability. A helpful resource here is CISA's Known Exploited Vulnerabilities catalog, which contains an authoritative list of which vulnerabilities CISA has seen to be exploited in the wild. Another useful thing here is EPSS, which is giving an exploit probability or prediction score to help you understand whether a vulnerability is likely to be exploitable. Now, the value here is that not every CVE is exploitable. And so we're focusing on vulnerabilities that we know can be exploited and can actually cause harm. Second is internet reachable, IRV, the opposite being not internet reachable. And this is to say, is the vulnerability present on a machine that is reachable by the public internet, or is it not reachable by the public internet? And this is, if it's your public website that anyone on the internet can reach, that is a major risk because anyone could go to the website and exploit the vulnerability. Whereas if it's on an EC2 instance that's several layers within your system and is only accessible by your engineering team for internal development tasks, that's treated a little differently because the risk it presents is different. So these two terms of likely exploited vulnerability and internet reachable vulnerability are key as we look at the new timeframes in this standard. The other thing to understand is the adverse impact ratings. The FedRAMP has defined 5 levels from N1 to N5, and these are the adverse impact that exploiting a vulnerability would have on your system. They go from negligible adverse effect to a limited adverse effect, a serious adverse effect at N3, a catastrophic effect on one agency or serious effect on more than one agency at N4, and then lastly, a catastrophic effect on more than one agency at N5. So this replaces the low, moderate, high, critical that we're used to from CVSS scores, and instead presents CSPs the opportunity to perform impact assessment and risk assessment for how severe vulnerabilities would be for their customers. And so these levels of the adverse impact rating, together with the known exploited vulnerability and the internet reachable vulnerability, give us the framework we need to form the timelines. So what you're looking at is the FedRAMP low timeframes to respond to and fix a vulnerability. On the left, you're seeing that adverse impact score from N5 down to N2. And on the top, you're seeing 3 different distinctions, whether it's likely to be exploited and internet reachable, whether it's likely to be exploited but not internet reachable, and then if it's not known to be exploited. And understandably, the time frame is going to increase as either the severity comes down or the exploitability or internet reachable is not true. And so we'll see 4 days as the timeline to patch an N5, a catastrophic vulnerability that is likely to be exploited and internet reachable, 8 days to patch something that is likely to be exploited, catastrophic, but not publicly reachable, and then 32 days to patch something that is not known to be exploited, but would have a catastrophic impact. As we go to FedRAMP moderate, where most CSPs are authorized, we see that these timeframes get reduced. We're down to 2 days to resolve a vulnerability that would have a catastrophic impact, that is likely to be exploited, and that is internet reachable. We have 4 days to patch something that is likely to be exploited but not internet reachable, and 16 days to patch a catastrophic but not known likely to be exploited vulnerability. As you can see, these timeframes are changed from FedRAMP low to moderate, and then lastly to FedRAMP high. And you'll notice that FedRAMP high, for a catastrophic vulnerability, we have only half a day to patch something that is likely to be exploited, is internet reachable, and would have a catastrophic impact. Now, it's important to note this kind of situation would already be an all hands on deck scenario, where it's a catastrophic impact. If it's exploited, it's likely to be exploited, and it's public facing. This is like a log4j type situation where everyone's working probably around the clock to patch this vulnerability. And if you know that your system is vulnerable to this, you're going to be prioritizing it probably above all else. And so the FedRAMP requirements here are intended to allow teams to focus on the real risks that vulnerabilities present to their system and focus on patching those at quick timelines as opposed to worrying about vulnerabilities that are either not exploitable yet or would have a minor impact on the system. It's important to recognize here how FedRAMP is empowering teams to move from just meeting the compliance checkbox to truly doing risk-based compliance. This is a great step forward that the FedRAMP team is taking, and they're encouraging all CSPs to use automation to help with these requirements. They don't want any teams managing a spreadsheet and tracking manually whether each of these vulnerabilities has known to be exploited, whether it's internet reachable. Instead, they're encouraging CSPs to use automated tools to help process vulnerability scan data and understand the timelines for each of these issues. Here at Paramify, we're doing our best to build to these new FedRAMP requirements. We support automated ingestion of vulnerability scan data, and we have smart parsing to help you understand whether the vulnerability is something that you need to act on right now and how you can track it. With our friends at Stratus Cyber, we're keeping up with all the latest FedRAMP requirements and standards, and we're doing our best to push out content so that you understand exactly what you need to be worried about as you keep your FedRAMP system authorized.